Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Just Sayin College Football Podcast. I'm Sutton Smith. Jake's shaking up his yoo-hoo there, getting ready for our show tonight, episode 31. Like we said, best show yet. And we're going to kind of change things up for this show. We're going to do our previews last. And we're going to start off with our best bets, which will head into some college football playoff possibilities. I mean, there are some – I was, Jake, just before the show, just jotting down some different ideas of what could happen this weekend. Man, there's some really crazy scenarios out there. A lot of far-fetched scenarios, but why wouldn't we want to talk about those? Because what if they happen? I mean, how cool would that be? So obviously this year of any year, it would be the year that it would happen. I mean, college football has been insane this season. And we'll finish off with, we're only going to do the Power Five. I know, I'm sorry to the Sun Belt Conference fans out there and the American Conference fans. We're not going to be previewing y'all's games because who cares? So we're going to do all five Power Five games, championship games. But I'll go ahead and start us off with my lock of the week. It feels weird doing best bets first, but we're going to do it anyway. My lock of the week this week, I think this is going to hit, and I think it's going to hit and then some, Jake. I think Texas blows out Oklahoma State this weekend. I've got Texas covering the 14.5 against Oklahoma State this weekend in the Big 12 championship game. And as we know later, Texas, to me, they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to find a way in the playoff. Whether that's an Oregon win, an FSU loss, something's going to happen to where they find themselves in the playoff. And I think they're a team to watch out for. And they're a team that's like we said, kind of getting there towards peaking. So I'm going to go Texas to blow out Oklahoma State, cover 14.5.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. My lock of the week is also in that game, and I kind of went with your style. I went under 54.5. I think it's going to be a lot of defense. I don't think Oklahoma State scores I don't want to say at all. I think they score one touchdown because this is a really, really good Texas defense that, they're susceptible to the pass, but Oklahoma State cannot pass the ball. They only rely on the run. And so they won't be able to run it against Texas. And also Oklahoma State's defense isn't too bad. It's not that great. It's not terrible. So I think Texas scores somewhere in like early 30s. And so I think it's like 30-7, 30-10, somewhere in that range.
So I'm actually going to go over. I think Texas is going to score in the 40s in this game. And I think Oklahoma State will score in the 20s. So I'm going to go over. But my second game bet that I have Washington covering the 9.5 against Oregon. Washington's a team that I think has been getting a lot of hate recently. It's probably because they haven't been blowing teams out like Oregon has. But we have to remember they beat Oregon head-to-head in the regular season. And we'll talk about all this at length more when we talk about the games. But they've been winning very close games all year. They're a battle-tested team. They got a really good offense. Defense is where people are starting to question them right now. But we've seen them be in a knife fight against Oregon this year, and I think they'll make it. Even if they don't win, I think it'll be closer than 10 points. And I think you're seeing 11 out there being lifted some other ways. So I'm going to go Washington to cover the 9.5 against Oregon.
That's kind of a surprising best bet. I wouldn't have it in there. Like I said last show, I think Washington covers that 9.5. But I don't think it's a lock at all. I mean, Oregon is, in my opinion, second, third best team, one of those. And so they can easily just, blow out Washington because they have the ability to do so. I don't think they will. So I'm going to go Washington to cover that as well. One of my other games is Michigan, Iowa. I have Michigan minus 21.5. This Iowa team might not score. I think I'm pretty sure it's on FanDuel. You can bet first and second half scores for individual teams. Iowa for both halves is 0.5. You're just betting if they're going to score in the half, which is just insane because one, Michigan's defense is really good. Two, offense is abhorrent, atrocious. I can't even think of a word bad enough because Iowa's offense is really, really bad. So I think Michigan can score 22 and cover this potentially.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Michigan's going to cover, and I think they're going to cover pretty easy. And I'm in the crowd that I don't think Iowa's going to score a point in this game. And I'd be very surprised if they score, if it's a touchdown. If they score, I'm expecting only field goals. So, and then my last
I think the only way
– oh, go ahead, sorry.
I think the only touchdown they score is if they can score a defensive touchdown.
Or a kick, or like a kick return. Like a lucky kick return.
Something non-offensive.
This will also probably be a surprising best bet to you, but as both of us were talking before the show, we're both really confident in our teams this weekend.
Oh, don't make
I'm gonna go Alabama to cover the 5.5.
Why is this the best bet?
I mean, there's not a lot of games this weekend, and I wanted to have 3-3 on both sides. And I'm more confident about that than I am a couple other of the games. So I'm gonna go Alabama to cover the 5.5 against Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, we'll hit on it later. I'm going to go Georgia to cover that. Like we said, we're both feeling more confident as the days go by. And hey, who knows? We might both wake up tomorrow and feel less confident, especially you. You vary every single morning.
I know I vary, but I've stayed steadfast and I plan on it.
That's
So
good. That's good. I mean, I might vary too, because even I was feeling super confident this afternoon, and now I'm kind of trending downwards.
yeah. Okay.
It's gonna go like this. It's gonna be a roller coaster.
We'll give another bet.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Other one, Louisville at FSU. Louisville just lost to Kentucky. Louisville's really not, I don't want to say really bad, but they're not good. And under a first year head coach, I mean, I guess you can get your players up for this game, but I think, they don't have a playoff shot anymore. I think FSU is really going to be able to get up for this game. And Tate Rodmaker, like you mentioned on the last show, I mean, he got thrown into the fire inside of Gainesville in his first game starting. And so I have FSU covering the 2.5. I think they win. I will be cheering for Louisville because if we lose, I want to be able to still make the playoff. We should make the playoff, but we need FSU to lose to do so.
Yeah, we're and we'll talk about this obviously more at length later, but I think this is a bad matchup for FSU, especially with Rodemaker not playing. So I'm going to go Louisville to win, Louisville to cover.
Wait. Say Rodemaker's
With
not playing?
Rodemaker playing. I meant Travis not playing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then so I had the 3 game picks I've already said. I've got 3 over-unders. I'll start off with actually a non-Power 5 game. I'm going to go New Mexico State Liberty over/under 54.5. I'm going to hammer the over in that situation. I think both of these teams have pretty good offenses. Obviously, Caden Salter and that Liberty Flame offense has done well, and Diego Pavea and the Cowboys offense been pretty good as of late too. So I expect both of those to continue to roll on, and I'm going to go over in that game.
Yeah, I agree. If you can put up 31 against Auburn, there's no telling how much you can put up against Liberty. Liberty has a really good offense as well. I'm keeping it in that game with one of my player props. I have Caden Salter 170.5 passing. I have the over in that game.
Oh, that's a hammer. That is hammer over. Oh yeah.
I don't want to say it's an absolute lock, but I feel like it is because this is going to be a close game. You're gonna want to throw the ball, and I know he's a pretty good runner too. But I mean, I think they're going to rely on his arm.
Yeah, if you can find maybe a passing and rushing bet for him this weekend, I don't know. I wasn't just saying you. I was saying someone in general. I would definitely hammer that. But
I want to see though.
But another over under I have Michigan Iowa over under 35.5. I'm gonna go under. Like I said, I think Michigan wins this game like 24-0. So I definitely think less than 35 points will be scored in this game.
Actually, I'm changing that to his total. It's 221.5.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that should hit. I mean, unless he gets sacked a bunch of times.
Yeah, never mind. I'm keeping it at passing. You're right. I never like sacks. I don't know how they're gonna vary into it, especially since I don't know. Sorry, what was the line of
35.5. Michigan Iowa.
Oh, Michigan. Did you say?
I said under. I said I think Michigan wins this game 24-0. Michigan may throw the ball, Jake. Like
I'm going under too. I'm going. Dude, I said it last week when you wanted to try to pick Iowa as a best bet, and you said over, even though it was 24.5. I said bet it until it hits. So I'm gonna go under with you.
Well, Penn State, they only threw 8 passes against Penn State. I expect them to throw 8 or less in this game. So
yeah. One of my other player props, I have Tate Rodemaker 195.5 passing under. I mean, I think I don't think it's a bad matchup for Florida State. I think it's a bad matchup for Tate Rodemaker again. Louisville's defense is decent. They're not great. And we saw Devin Leary throw for a little bit of success on him last week. But also Devin Leary has a lot more experience than Tate Rodemaker. Tate Rodemaker, granted, does have a lot more weapons, but still. I just think the under is going to hit.
I'm actually going to go over because I think the weapons will help him. I still said they lose the game, but I think they lose the game a different way, and I'll highlight that in a little bit, a little sneak peek. But my final over under, I have Bama Georgia over under 54.5. I'm going over. I think both teams score more than 26 points per. So yeah, I'm going to go over on this one because it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a close game either way. So,
I'm gonna go under.
Interesting. Wow. You
I
think
just-
it's a low scoring game?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about two of the top 5 defenses in the nation. And especially, I think both. I mean, we'll talk about it a lot more, but both of these teams have really, really high ceilings, offensively speaking. But I mean, they both make a lot of. I don't want to say a lot of mistakes, uh, on offense, but I think they're not gonna play the game perfectly, and both defenses are gonna be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So I think the under is gonna hit. Then I have 2 more player props. I have Roma Dunze 101.5 receiving. I have the over, and then Xavier Worthy 74.5. I have the over in that one as well.
Yeah, I'll go over for both of those, especially in conference championship weekends. I think those kind of have to hit.
I think they're going to hammer Roma Dunze.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, all right. Good best bets. Kind of weird that we started off with that, but let's kind of segue this into the different college football playoff possibilities after championship weekend. So obviously, let's go ahead and start off with, I think we have one lock of the 4, right? We have one lock, and I think that's the Pac-12 champion. Obviously, whoever wins the Pac-12 is probably going to be in the playoff. I mean, there probably isn't a probably. It's a 100%er. Whether that's Washington or Oregon, they're going to be in, right? I mean, would you agree? So,
Yeah.
So here are the teams I have that if they lose, they're going to be out. If they lose regardless. Michigan, they have no shot of getting back in if they lose. FSU has no shot of getting back in if they lose. Texas, Alabama, and Oregon. Obviously, Texas, Alabama, and Oregon are all the one-loss teams, so that would make them at 2 losses. But the reason I have Michigan and FSU, if they lose, they're out. They're both one loss, or they're both undefeated, but neither one of them play a good schedule. And we know FSU is already teetering on the being in or being out. So I believe both of those teams, if both of them lose, they are out, Jake. But I think Georgia, if they lose a game, they still have a chance to get in. And I still think Washington has a very far-fetched chance to get in, even if they lose. It would have to be both games, obviously, if both teams lose, it'd have to be very competitive. And judging by our best bets, I believe them to be. So there's still a chance both of those teams make it, even if they lose. I don't know how do you feel about that?
Yeah. Specifically, which 2 teams? Because I know you mentioned a couple.
I said Georgia and Washington. If both of them lose, I think that they both have a chance still to get in. But if Michigan and FSU lose, they have no shot.
Yeah, I disagree with Washington. I think if they lose, they're out. I don't think there's
a lot would have to happen. A lot would have to happen.
A ton would have to happen. I think if Michigan loses, they can still get in. But again, a lot has to happen. Georgia definitely can. Still need a lot, but not as much. Because Georgia is probably, if Georgia loses this weekend, they're the most deserving team that's looking from the outside in. Yeah, I mean, there's just if I'm trying to think of a scenario if Michigan loses, how they get in. I mean, you just have to have so much. You have to have Georgia win.
There is one.
You have to have Louisville win. You have to have Oklahoma State win.
You have to have Washington win.
Pac-12 I don't think matters because they're putting in a 12-1 Michigan over a 12-1 Washington.
See, I don't know, Jake. I don't know if Washington plays it close to with Oregon, it's like a 3-point game. I don't know.
Look, and what I wanted to
Iowa, they're losing. Keep in mind who they're losing to if they lose.
Believe me, I know
they're not going to put them in. I think a loss to Iowa wouldn't be as good as a loss to Oregon.
I don't. Yeah, for me also, it might not even be that much. I think it might just be, it's Michigan, and if they do lose, no matter who they lose to, I think the playoff committee wants to keep them out of the playoff because then that's just too much going on
with Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if Michigan loses, they're out.
Yeah,
because to me, the only team that can lose this weekend and remain in is Georgia. I think
there is a very far-fetched scenario that Washington would get in, but it would require Michigan to lose, and it would require Washington to lose by less than a touchdown and be competitive the whole game.
What would get Washington in if they lose?
All right, so if Michigan loses, okay, so Michigan's out. So there's no Big Ten team in. Georgia would win, so Georgia would be the 1 seed. I think Oregon would have to win, obviously. So Oregon's in. So that means Alabama's out. I think Oklahoma State would have to win. And FSU would have to lose.
This is crazy.
FSU would have to lose. So then you'd have Michigan
Washington.
Washington.
See, this is
so tough. Yeah.
This is the thing. I get what you're saying. So Texas is out, Bama's out, FSU's out. We're good.
Yep.
Georgia, Michigan, or Georgia, Oregon. Those
Oregon.
are two teams that are in for a
Yes.
fact.
Yes.
So you have two spots for 12-1 Michigan, who just lost to Iowa, 11-1 Ohio State, who lost to Michigan,
Yeah.
and 12-1 Washington.
So I think in that scenario right there, Michigan and Washington are put in because they both played for a conference championship. And obviously Michigan had the head-to-head over Ohio State. And like I said, if Washington plays Oregon well, they've already beat them again. I'd put them in over Ohio State. I would. I think they have a better strength of schedule too. I mean, the Pac-12 this year has been much more competitive than the Big Ten. Ohio State's best win is on the road against Notre Dame, which, as the season played out, wasn't as impressive as it turned out to be. Now it was a big win at the time. It was a big win at the time, but we know that Washington's looked good on offense this year, and they've got a Heisman Trophy contender in Penix, and maybe that is another reason for the playoff.
I'm curious though, as you know, from a Georgia perspective, and I don't want to be biased about it. So, what, in your opinion, what has to happen for them to get in if they lose?
So, in my opinion, for Georgia to get in, so obviously Alabama's in because they would. So FSU's got to lose. All right, really for any of this to happen, FSU has got to lose.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a Pac-12 team in, so that's two. I think for Georgia to get in, FSU has to lose and Texas has to lose, or two of these three have to lose. Michigan, Texas, or FSU. Two of those three have to lose for Georgia to be in.
See, I don't know if Texas has to lose.
Yes, they do. Because yes, they do.
If they win convincingly, I don't think it's close.
One of those teams,
but
if Michigan, Georgia, or FSU loses, Texas is automatically in. That team is that they will be the first. They're the first team really looking out right now that'll be in. They're the first. They're the first team looking out that would be in. They would be in over Alabama would because of the head-to-head. But so let me run through some scenarios before we get off track. Obviously, the easiest scenario that the NCAA and the College Football Playoff would love was just if the favorites won. So if Georgia wins, 1 seed. Michigan wins, 2 seed. If Oregon, who is the favorite over Washington right now, wins, they'd obviously be in. They'd be the 3 seed. Florida State would be the 4 seed. So Georgia play Florida State, Michigan play Oregon. That is the easiest scenario possible. That would be all chaos avoided. All right, so let me give you this scenario, Jake. Let's say one of these teams loses, okay? Michigan, Georgia, FSU. Texas is in. And Texas is that one team that would be in. Because then you'd have the Pac-12 champion. You'd have, let's say Michigan loses. You'd have Georgia, FSU, the Pac-12 champion, and Texas, right? Texas is that first team looking out. So if one of those big three were to lose, Texas would be that team that goes in. If two of those big three were to lose, Michigan, Georgia, and FSU, Texas and Alabama would go in. Okay. If Georgia was to lose to Alabama and FSU was to lose, or Texas was to lose, or Michigan was to lose, Alabama would go in. Alabama would be that 14.
That's just crazy. We're talking about the playoff of a SEC champion and a 12 SEC runner-up not getting into the playoff.
Yeah, which is a travesty. But that's what this committee, and this is a whole nother conversation, but this committee is not putting the best teams in. They're putting the most deserving in their opinion.
Yeah, I think
it should be the best teams, not the most deserving.
They're doing a blend with it though, because I don't hate it, because if you said the best 4 teams, that's pretty much who has the most blue chips. That's really all it is.
Well,
and so you know how much people love to ride on Texas A&M. Someone would want to put Texas A&M into the playoff as a 10-2 team if they can somehow ever go 10-2. So I'm not a fan of that.
I mean, the third most blue chip is Ohio State, and they lost to Michigan. So you can't put them here. But
but I'm saying these are all teams that could get into the playoff. Like, you know, all the obvious ones: Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Bama, Texas, even USC. Throw them in there if they were good. But like A&M is a team that shouldn't sniff the playoff ever. Not anytime soon, at least. Maybe Mike Elko can do wonders for them. But if you're just going based off the soon-to-be 12 best teams and say they're on the brink for 12 best, and say they're 9-3 and they haven't proven anything like a typical Texas A&M team does, you need to have some precedents in place to put the most deserving teams in as well. Because look, I mean, everyone thought Michigan was so much better than TCU last year, and people were saying TCU shouldn't be in the playoff. TCU goes in and beats Michigan, who a lot of people thought they were going to win the Natty. A lot of people thought they were going to beat Georgia. A lot of people, and then they couldn't even beat TCU. So that's my whole thing with it. I like the blend between most deserving and best, because we all know whoever loses this weekend, as long as it's not a blowout, like I said, whoever loses between Georgia and Bama, they're a top 3 team, but neither one of them, if they lose, should be in the playoff.
My problem is they hasn't been consistent. Like not only has Oregon not looked like a better team than Alabama, but Oregon hasn't played near the schedule that an Alabama or Texas has played all season, and they haven't looked better than either one of those teams at really any point.
Oregon's definitely looked better than Bama
all season.
Yeah.
Oh, you think definitely. Oregon's better than Alabama
all season? Yeah. If you're talking about in the last 3 weeks,
Oregon's better than Alabama right now
in the season. Or are we talking about?
Is Oregon better than Alabama right now?
It's very, very close. I'd probably lean Alabama. But no, that's what I was saying. You can't disregard the whole season.
It should be rankings right now. That's how it is. It's week to week rankings. Right now.
But then you would want to put in Alabama over Texas, and then that just makes the regular season not matter anymore. You can't disregard
but
what happened in week 1.
Week 2. But
no, I'm saying like
exactly right. No, I believe Texas is in over Alabama because of that game that they played. Absolutely. But also at the same point, you're kind of making these out of conference games that people schedule not want them to do it again, because Oregon hasn't had to play a tough out of conference team all season. They played Portland State to start the year. They beat them like 86-7. So Texas and Alabama's getting penalized for losing a game that they scheduled. And Texas, they ended up losing to Oklahoma, but they haven't really gained anything from beating Alabama either. So, which is crazy. So yeah, and me and my roommate Robert were talking about earlier today. So yeah, that's just kind of he was definitely right on that point. I mean,
because like 6+ years ago, as soon as Kirby came into office, he scheduled all these out of conference opponents. So 2021 we played Clemson. This year should have played Oklahoma. That was a travesty. Next year we played Clemson. In the future years, there's years in the same season we play Ohio State and Clemson, Ohio State and FSU. So, I mean, but luckily this is when the 12-team playoff is going to be a thing. It's not going to matter that much. These teams, Georgia, Bama, I mean, we're kind of privileged, and we can probably go 9-3 and still make the playoff, depending on who we lose to. So I don't think
if there was a 12-team format for this year, I saw it, what it would have been. Man, it would have been some fireworks too. It looked like it would have been like Alabama would have been playing Missouri in Tuscaloosa. Oregon would have played Tulane in Eugene. Penn State would have played Texas in Austin. And what was the other one? I'm trying to remember. Man, why can't I think of it? Anyway, it was just like really, it would have been all really fun games. Like the 12-team playoff would have been really fun. Yeah. But
anyway,
one more scenario. This was my crazy scenario. Michigan or Texas loses. Okay. A Pac-12 champion. FSU loses. Alabama beats Georgia. That is when this would be what I would have. So let's say Texas loses and Michigan wins, Oregon wins, Alabama wins, Georgia loses, FSU loses. That is when it would be Michigan, Oregon, Texas.
Wait, I thought you said Texas loses.
Or yeah, sorry. Yeah, Michigan, Oregon, Alabama, and Georgia. Alabama and Georgia would be the 3 and 4 seed.
I think that's the one playoff. The playoff.
Alabama would rematch with Texas in the semis, and Oregon would play.
Wait, no, you said Texas.
Alabama would play Oregon in the semis. Texas or Michigan would play Georgia. So we get another Michigan Georgia game. I still think you find Alabama Georgia in the Natty again.
I agree.
So that's a crazy scenario that could happen.
I think that's the one the playoff committee wants, because the one you mentioned earlier about the easiest one where all the winners or all the favorites win, where it's Georgia, Michigan, FSU, Oregon, because Texas is still going to be upset that they got left out. In that one, no one has any. I mean, maybe Washington, but you can't really expect them. So,
well, yeah. Good thing for us. All this will be figured out on the field.
I was about to say this is all going to get figured out here in the next few days.
But I feel like someone is going to be mad, and if Alabama wins, I could definitely see it being myself. But we will be going to the 12-team playoff where Alabama and Georgia will make it every single year. So you'll be seeing a lot of the A and a lot of the G pretty soon. But let's go from the least important game or the least likely game to be good to the best. So we'll end our show strong with Alabama, Georgia.
Michigan, Iowa, number one.
No other place than Indianapolis, Indiana.
Not going to be a
Iowa Hawkeyes roll in as 23.5-point underdogs to play the Michigan Wolverines.
The line has dropped to 21.5.
Whoa. Get some Iowa money there. Okay.
There is no way Iowa is ranked 16 in the playoff.
Do you give them a shot, Jake? Do you give them a shot in this game?
No, they have absolutely zero shot. Also, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been announced, but I'm pretty sure Jim Harbaugh won't be suspended again, so he will be on the sideline for this game. I'm almost certain of it. So your offense is going to be better if you're a Michigan fan. Iowa has a good defense. Good for them. But like I said earlier, I don't think Iowa is going to be able to score an offensive touchdown. Maybe they can score a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown. But, I mean, I don't think Michigan scores more than 30. If they do, it's like 31. I don't think they score a lot because they do have a good defense. But, I mean, this Iowa offense won't be able to move the ball. I think at the end of the half, they will maybe have 110 yards, maybe. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's not going to be a close game. Like I said, best bet for Michigan to cover that 21.5.
Yeah. I think Iowa may look okay on offense throughout this game. I think they're going to try a lot of different trick plays. Obviously, I don't think they're going to work. But I will say this. I think Iowa's defense will find some success against Michigan's offense early on. But I think second half adjustments will really be key for Michigan in this game. Like I said, I think Michigan wins this game like 24-0. I really do. I don't think Iowa scores a point in this game. It's just really hard for me to see them move the ball against that on offense against a really good Michigan defense. And I don't think Michigan's going to have to do too much on offense. But I would not be surprised if at halftime you look and see it's 10-0 Michigan. I would not be surprised at all. Michigan will be in control this whole game. I don't give Iowa a shot at all to win this game either. So, yeah, like you said earlier, I think Michigan's going to win, and I think they're going to cover. But let's go to Dallas, Texas, not the Cotton Bowl. We're going to be in good old Jerry's world to watch the Oklahoma State Cowboys take on the Texas Longhorns. Shout out to Josh Pate for having this pick back in August. Never thought this was going to happen, especially after the South Alabama loss. But even though Oklahoma State's going to be representing their school in Dallas, they are about to get blown out by the Texas Longhorns, who are playing some of their best football as of recent. They absolutely blew out Texas Tech last week at home. I think they're going to do the same thing to Oklahoma State. I think they win by 21-24 in this game. It's going to be in hand the whole game. And I think Texas is going to find that someone's going to lose, and Texas is going to find their way into the playoff this weekend. I really believe that.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State has we said Iowa has zero shot. I think Oklahoma State has like a 2% chance to win. It's going to take a miracle. If Texas was not as good as they are at run stopping, I think Oklahoma State would have, like a 10% chance to win. But Texas run stopping defense is really good. Like I said, passing is where they're susceptible. And Oklahoma State and Alan Bowman can't really do much of that. So I think Ollie Gordon is going to be shut down all day. And so Texas, I think you can suffice with like a 24-7 win. I think it's going to be somewhere around that range.
Yeah, and Alan Bowman and especially the Oklahoma State offensive line is going to have heroic performances for them to have a shot in this game. I mean, we've seen heroic performances from Ollie Gordon all season. I mean, the dude's got so many rushing touchdowns, but we haven't seen much from the Alan Bowman and Cowboys passing game this year. I mean, every time I look at their stat sheet, he has like no touchdown passes. It's really just yards. It's a lot of check downs, a lot of underneath throwing. So they're really going to have to open up that passing game to help out Ollie Gordon because Texas can really stop the run. And I don't think they're going to have an issue doing that in this game either.
Yeah. Let's go down. Where's the ACC championship played? Is it Charlotte?
It's played in Carolina. It's played in whatchamacallit, in North Carolina.
Charlotte, right?
Charlotte. Yeah. It's played in Charlotte. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go down to Charlotte for the Louisville FSU game. This is one of the better games, but still I won't spend a ton of time talking about it because I don't think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be really ugly.
It's going to be very ugly.
Like we were saying, FSU, if they win, they're in. They deserve to be in. but they are not one of the best 4 teams. And it sucks because I think they could have been before Jordan Travis's injury. And now you have to go in with a backup quarterback. And I get it. People are always going to want to reference Ohio State in 2014 when they were going into their 3rd string QB against Alabama in the Natty, and they ended up winning. I get it, but I don't think this team's that. They have a lot of weapons. Their defense is pretty good, but just in today's day and age in offense, you need a quarterback to lead you. And I don't think Tate Rodmaker is that guy. I think he's serviceable, and I think they can still win this game. Like I said, I predict them to win the game. I predict them to cover. Because I don't think Louisville's very good. I think Jack Plummer isn't very good. I get it. He's had a pretty good year. But again, that's in the ACC. I think Tate Rodmaker, if he was on Louisville, he does like the same thing as Jack Plummer. So I think they're one of the same. I just don't think Louisville's very good. And so this is, you could be playing Iowa in this game. That would be worse. But Louisville is probably the second worst opponent you could be playing. Actually, no, they're better than Oklahoma State. Okay. Louisville's a decent team. But yeah, I just think Jared Verse in that defense is going to be too much for Jack Plummer. And I think they're going to shut down the run, which is pretty much what Louisville has predicated their offense on. Just being able to get Jahar Jordan to be able to run across the 53-yard field. So I don't know. I think this game is going to be really low scoring. I don't know what the over-under is. 47.5. I'd hit the under in that.
I think it's a really good best bet that I didn't even check.
I think it's going to be like 20-10.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game too, but I'm actually going to give the edge to Louisville, and specifically their front 7. I mean, Louisville's really been able to stop the run this year. I think they're top 20 or top 30 in college football. So that's what's going to have to help Tate Rodemaker and the FSU offense get on, because he can't just win this game with his arm. He's going to have help from Trey Benson and the rest of those guys in that running back room. But Louisville's been able to stop the run all season. So, and I expect them to in this game as well, because I don't think Florida State's offensive line is going to have that much more of a push than any other team Louisville's played this year. They're not exactly the best. So, and I think actually Louisville has the edge at quarterback and running back in this game. I do think it was a little disrespectful how you just were talking about my guy Jack Plummer there. I actually do think he's better than Tate Rodemaker. He's actually been a lot better than a lot of people have thought. I did not think he was going to be good at all this year, but I mean, he's led Louisville to a 10-2 season. So you got to give him some kind of props there. He's been able to at least game manage for them. And Tate Rodemaker has not been able to prove that he can do that quite well, because I mean, that Florida team, I mean, let's be honest, they're not that good. And he was going against a backup. And I think both of us know if Graham Mertz was playing in that game, Florida's probably going to win that football game. So I think they have not only the edge at quarterback, but I think Jahar Jordan's a better running back than Trey Benson. And I think this year has kind of proved that as well, because not only does Trey Benson has he had Jordan Travis in that passing game to kind of run off of, but he's had a better line too. And Jahar Jordan's just been that complete offense for Louisville all season. So I think they've got an edge at 2 spots on offense there that I think they can use to their advantage against the Florida State defense. Now, the key there is going to be obviously the Louisville O-line sustaining some blocks, especially against the likes of Jared Verse, to give Jack Plummer a clean pocket where he can deliver the ball to some of his playmakers. But I think they're going to do just enough to get by and win this game. I really do. And I think a lot of that key is making the Florida State offense one-dimensional. If it's all going to be on Tate Rodemaker's shoulders, Florida State's not going to win this game. He's going to have help from some of his star players. So I'm also looking at Florida State offensive play calling in this game. I'm really interested to see what they do. This will definitely be a game, if I can watch, that I will watch. Looking forward to it. But I think Louisville's going to prevail, and I think they win and obviously cover the 2.5.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to watching it too. Hopefully I watch it with a smile on my face as Georgia beats Bama, but we'll see. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. After the second best game of the week, out in the desert, we got Oregon-Washington being played on Friday night, which I'm so excited because I can definitely watch this game. The rematch of the team that beat Oregon, because Oregon, if they didn't lose that game, I think they would be ranked number 2 right now, because they're ranked number 5. They're ranked above Ohio State, which I think says a lot. But Washington, like we talked about, I don't know why everyone is just taking this away from Washington, acting like Oregon already won. I don't like it. They're taking all the respect out of Washington. And this offense, I get it, hasn't been great as of late. And by as of late, I mean like half the season. They have not played well pretty much since they played Oregon. They've been pretty slow out the gates, and their team hasn't performed too well. But I mean, you just can't forget that. And I get it, they were at home, but I mean, you beat Oregon, and everyone's already taking this game away from you.
Mhm.
I think Michael Penix is going to have a lot to say about that. I think he is going to absolutely pepper Roma Dunze with the ball. I think I think it's going to be similar how Kyle McCord throws to Marvin Harrison. Whenever he gets in trouble, he just throws it up to 18. I think Michael Penix is just going to throw it up to 1 this game. And, like I predicted, I think Washington's going to cover, but I think this Oregon offense is just too much. I think they're going to win. I think it's a big offensive game, very similar to the first game where, it was a lot of offense, but there was a little bit of defense sprinkled in there, especially on the play calling. And I think Dan Lanning, he's a great coach. He's going to learn from that. But let's not act like, they're pretty much going up against air. People wanted to take that away from Oregon, saying it was horrible play calling. It was like 4th and 1 twice, and they didn't get either one of those. I don't think that's on the play calling. Could it have been better? Yeah, but I think it was execution. And again, I think they're going to learn from it. I think they're practicing those. And this Washington defense, they're really good on 4th down, but on 3rd down, they're extremely susceptible. I think they're 80th in the nation, somewhere around there. So if you can just stay on the field on 3rd down and convert those first, I think it's going to be a long day for that Washington defense. And I expect a big day from Troy Franklin and Tez Johnson, who both had big days against Oregon State. So like I said, I think Oregon's going to cover. I think Oregon's going to win, but Washington's going to cover.
Yeah, I love you talking about, obviously we got 2 Heisman front runners here with Nixon and Penix there, but I'm going to go a different route than the way you're talking. You were talking a lot about skill guys. This game is going to be won in the trenches. Which team is better in the trenches? And you don't really ever say that about Pac-12 teams, but the reason I think Oregon's going to win is because they've got some dudes on that front, and they've been able to prove it all season long. A lot of that first game they played, they did exchange a lot of blows through the passing game. But I think this game's going to really come down to who can run the ball more effectively. And this is when my X factor for the Oregon offense, I mentioned him all season, Bucky Irving. I mean, he's really the guy that can do it all in their offense. I think he shines in this game. And then the impact that Jordan James, the backup running back at Oregon, that he's had recently too, has been outstanding to watch. I mean, the last couple of games he's been unreal. So I actually think he might be the better runner between him and Irving, but Irving's kind of the do it all back. Doesn't get a lot of credit either. So yeah, I think those 2 guys are kind of the difference in this game for the Oregon offense. Not so much Bo Nix or Michael Penix, but this Oregon defense is a little bit better than the Washington defense, and that I take into account as well. But like I said, Washington has been there and done that all season. They beat this team already head to head, which is another reason it's really hard to beat a team a second time, especially when you've got Dan Lanning on the other side. I think both you and I have tremendous amounts of respect for him. And what he's been able to do at Oregon in just 2 short years. So, yeah, I think Oregon wins a close one here, Jake. I really believe Washington's going to be able to stick around in this game, but Oregon just to me is a better team. And I think if they would have played that game at a neutral site or on the road or at home earlier this year against Washington, I think it was a different outcome then as well. So, I'm going to go with Oregon to win, but Washington to cover. And I got a quick question for you. If you had to start a program right now, would you rather have Steve Sarkisian or Dan Lanning? Just you don't have to answer why. Just answer. Dan Lanning. I'm the same. Just wanted that. Was
I think. I mean, Steve Sarkisian's he's been around the block a little bit more than Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning's in his 2nd year of a head coach ever, and he already. I think Oregon's a better team than Texas with less. That's important, and a way harder schedule. I don't want to say way harder. What looked like a way harder schedule. And I mean, who has Texas beat outside of Bama?
Kansas State without Quinn Ewers. I think Kansas State.
That's kind of impressive, but still,
you're right. You're right.
Texas hasn't really played anyone, and we're going to talk about it. Bama was really good. That was a bad Bama team. Week 2.
It was.
That was a team who
a lot different of a team right now.
Yeah, that was a team who beat USF 17-3. I get it without Jalen Milroe, but still, that team was not great. Bama.
I don't think that Bama team was a top 20. It would be a top 25 team in college football right now.
Oh, I 100% agree. They were bad, not bad. They were, for Alabama standards, they were really bad.
They were terrible for Alabama standards.
And so and you can't, again, I don't want to get into the playoff thing. We've already talked about it. If they rematch right now, Bama's favored, Bama wins. But you can't just take away that that head-to-head because Texas does have it. But anyway, yeah, I'm definitely taking Dan Lanning because I love Dan. He's a great guy.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it.
Let's go to the best game.
I want to start doing it like this. We're going to take a dive. Okay. I want to go we don't have to start there, but I do want to go position by position.
I was going to say, let's yeah, we can go position by position. I mean, let's do this because I want to talk about Bama a little bit. I'm sure you want to talk about Georgia just a little bit because there's some things, especially a little bit offensively, I want to talk about things I've seen, things I've heard. So let's talk about Georgia offensively, then Bama offensively, then Bama defensively, and end it off with Georgia defensively. So obviously I'll hammer Georgia more, you hammer Bama more. Let's try to spend because we could talk about this for an hour. Let's try to talk for 25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
About this. Okay. Max.
Yeah, let's do it.
So like we said, we're both feeling way more confident as the week goes on. Like I said, could wake up tomorrow. It's completely different. I was scared out of my mind last week after Bama won, after Bama beat Auburn like that. I was scared out of my mind. I thought for sure they were going to cover when it was 5.5. Is it still 5? I think it went up.
5.5. It's 5. Still? It was 6 earlier today when I looked, so it's gone down. There's been some money put on Bama today.
Yeah, I was so scared for this game because Bama is a really, really good team. Like I said, nothing like they were at the beginning of the year. But I think this Alabama defense has not faced an offense like Georgia. You can argue Texas. I don't think that Texas offense is too great, especially when they faced them. I think they had a lot to learn. And also this Georgia offense, they haven't had to put a bunch on tape. That's the thing. I think there's 2 reasons I'm scared if I'm Bama looking at this Georgia offense. One, they haven't had to put a lot on tape. You can theoretically, both teams are going to throw the kitchen sink because both teams, especially Bama, obviously they're out if they lose. Georgia, I think, they're assuming they're out if they lose. That's how you should go into this game. You should throw the kitchen sink, use everything you have. So that's the one reason. And a lot of the games that y'all have played close, like Ole Miss, LSU, you could argue A&M. Y'all pretty much probably put everything on tape. I think we'll get into it. I think it's a very simple offense that Bama runs. It's a very complex offense that Georgia runs. Not saying one's better than the other because there's pros and cons of both. But I think Georgia has a lot more to put on tape because those games against Ole Miss, Tennessee weren't close. The only one that was Missouri. But the other thing that would scare me, the one that would petrify me, is we have not seen a really an actual healthy Ladd McConkey and a healthy Brock Bowers on the same field since the last national championship. And I think we get that this weekend. Do I think both of them are 100%? No. But they are our number 1 and number 2. And I think they will be the best receivers on the field in total, both for Alabama and Georgia on Saturday. So that's the thing that scares me the most. And also, I think just Dylan Bell, how he's been performing as of late. I mean, he's been great. And so I think he's going to, make our offense extremely multiple against Alabama, push y'all on the edge. And then also the last thing I'll mention about our offense, this Joe Moore Award winning offensive line, hopefully, if they don't win it, it's a travesty. It's a scam. They were snubbed because they definitely should win it, especially it's probably going to be down between them and Michigan, and they should 100% get it. They have been playing out of their minds since the Missouri game. They've been playing great, and I get it. Tennessee has a decent defense. You were playing at Neyland too, though. Ole Miss, not so great, but we saw it when Bama played them. Ole Miss's line was kind of whipping them because they have a really good pass rush, not so much run game. But this O-line, they've been playing great in the last 3 to 4 games. And Kendall Milton is also the healthiest he's been since his freshman year. And I don't know if you've seen, but his stats over the last 3 weeks, pretty much since the O-line started performing well, has been great. I'm pretty sure he's averaging 7-point-something yards per carry, which is kind of insane. But he's been doing great. And I think this is going to be more of a game for Daijun Edwards. I think Kendall Milton is going to get his licks. He's going to get a lot of carries. He's going to do well. But Daijun Edwards, there's no excuse or no getting around this. Alabama's front 7 is good. They're really good. Probably going to be the best we face all year. So Daijun Edwards is better at finding those holes and nitpicking his way around. Whereas Kendall Milton, he sees it, he hits it. So I think Dejon Edwards is going to find those holes and he's going to perform well. So I think this offense, and we'll get into it. I don't think they faced a team. Obviously, they haven't. They haven't faced a defense like Alabama, but I think they're going to have a decent amount of success. Like I said, I think the game's going to hit the under. So I don't think Georgia puts up 45, but I do think they have a lot of success, and I think they do not squat on the ball, but I think they run the ball a lot and they milk the clock because you don't want to get up there in possessions with Alabama.
Yeah, and I guess the better way to do this is you talk about the offense, and I'll talk about the Bama defense kind of in response to what you said. And I'll do Bama offense, and you respond with Georgia defense. But yeah, I don't think and obviously, going into the Ole Miss Georgia game, we thought that Ole Miss pass rush was really going to get home a lot more than it did because they had a good pass rush going into that game. But
they were top 10.
I think it's pretty clear once that game happened, though, that the other positions along that front seven weren't equipped to handle Georgia's offensive line. That Ole Miss had at least. And then obviously their secondary was not able at all to even withstand any of the punches Georgia threw their way through the air. But that's the difference between Alabama and Ole Miss on defense is Alabama does have the front seven to sustain what Georgia's throwing at them. And they do have a much better secondary, a top 10 secondary in college football. But what Ole Miss doesn't have that Alabama does is Alabama has 2 stars on the edge in Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell, the most dynamic duo at edge rushers in college football right now. I mean, both of those guys are going to be first. Dallas Turner's going to be a first-round pick. Braswell could play himself into the first, definitely a second-round pick. So having to contain both of those guys when they're on the field at the same time, even though Georgia's offensive line is really good, they haven't seen any of those type of guys all season. So it's and Georgia, even in practice, Georgia themselves, and I'll get into this a little bit, they don't have the edge rushers that Alabama has. They don't have that pressure off the edge that Alabama has. They're going to have, when they rush the quarterback, they're going to have to rush with more than 4. They're going to have to go 5, and even in some cases 6 to get home on Jalen Milroe. It's a lot harder to get home on Jalen Milroe than it is on Carson Beck. Now, I'm not saying Carson Beck isn't athletic. I definitely think when prompted, he can run the football. We've seen it a lot of times this year. But Alabama is going to get to the quarterback, I think, in this game. I think they'll have success getting to the quarterback with 4 guys. I don't think that we're going to have to bring crazy blitz pressures in this game to get to him. I think, sure, Kevin Steele will get aggressive on some calls and decide to do that, but I think rushing 4 will be pretty sufficient for Alabama in this game. One thing for me, obviously, the Auburn being able to run the ball all over us is very concerning. But also, like I said, I didn't take too much in that game. I don't think Georgia's going to have that much success on the ground in this game. I do think they'll have a good run here every now and again, but I don't think they're going to have as much success as people think that they're going to have on the ground in this game. I think this game is going to be won for Georgia on offense or Alabama on defense is, can Alabama's defense get off the field on 3rd downs? Obviously, you were talking about Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. Brock is going to get all the attention, but Ladd deserves a lot of attention too. I feel like he's obviously going to be that guy that they go to on 3rd downs. So when it's 3rd down and 5, 3rd down and 4, 3rd down and 6, you're going to have to, if you're Georgia, you're going to have to get the ball to either one of those guys who are going to be either double covered or heavily attended for, or you're going to have to throw the ball to Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint. You're going to have to get Ra Thomas involved, maybe Dominic Lovett, or maybe even the backs in the screen game. Something you're going to have to do. Mike Bobo is going to have to call something pretty creative on those short 3rd downs to get conversions, because you want Alabama offense to have the least amount of possessions possible. You want to keep that Alabama defense on the field. So the key to success for Georgia is milking the clock, like you said, running the football, and keep continuing to convert on 3rd down. But for Alabama, on defense, Carson Beck hasn't turned the ball over much this year. I think you're going to have to force a turnover or 2 maybe in this game, whether that's a fumble, an interception. Alabama's defense, 2 of the best corners in college football, the two best zone corners in college football right now with Kool-Aid and Terrian. Both of them have been playing out of their minds. So Georgia hasn't seen a secondary like Alabama's either all season. And I'd argue, you said Alabama hasn't seen an offense like Georgia. I actually argue Alabama's seen a better offense than Georgia's this year. I think LSU's offense is better than Georgia's offense, in my opinion. The way Jane Daniels was playing at the time we played them, obviously Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, both those guys complete studs. Yes, they don't have a Brock Bowers. Yes, their offensive line isn't as good. But, Jane Daniels is just playing out of his mind at that point. And even at the beginning of the year, I mean, that Texas offense is really good as well. And they were playing obviously lights out. So I think Alabama is a lot more battle tested than Georgia is. And that's another reason why I'm going to pick Alabama to win the game, is because I think Alabama has seen two offenses that are really good this year, whereas Georgia hasn't seen a defense that's really good this year. So Georgia has, I mean, obviously they're going up against a good defense in practice every day, but it's different when the lights are on, and you know that. So I think the fact that Alabama has had some troubled times earlier this year with really good offenses is going to better prepare them for this game. And I think that gives our defense a better, scouting report for this game than maybe Georgia's offense is going to have.
Yeah. The only reason I say I don't think y'all have seen an offense like it, I think y'all saw Texas. I don't think LSU is anything like us because I think y'all were built perfectly to beat Texas. I think I said that the week y'all played. Sorry, LSU. I think y'all were made to beat this Bama team was made to beat LSU because you look at it. I mean, I get it. The defense is really good. The only area y'all are a little bit suspect in, and I know you really like your front seven. Edges are really good. Linebackers are okay. They're pretty good. Defensive tackles, not great, not fantastic. I think that's where we have the blatant advantage. And anywhere else you can, maybe spot them. Like corners, y'all definitely have the advantage over our receivers, probably. Brock Bowers, whoever over the star, he definitely has the advantage. I'd say tackles and edges, y'all have a slight advantage. But the interior with, our two guards and Cedric Van Pran, that's where we have our advantage. And that's where, LSU couldn't exploit that. They're having to go, and I mean, two great receivers, two future first-round picks in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, but they're having to go against two other first-round picks. So that's where, it's best on best, where it's for us. I mean, we're going to be able to run the ball. LSU couldn't do that. I think it's one of our best strengths against one of y'all's weaknesses, where, like I said, LSU couldn't exploit that. Texas could, and I think that's one of the reasons why Texas won. And I get it. Like I said, Texas or Bama's completely different team than they were. So I mean, I think for both of us, you can't look at how Auburn played against us because they play, and Georgia Tech played against us. They play a completely different style. Because one, it was kind of weird for us. Against Auburn, the running back, not running back, Peyton Thorne kind of ran all over us. For y'all, it was Jarquez Hunter running all over y'all. But it was still a completely different style. Where Jalen Milroe, he's a way better runner than Peyton Thorne, but he's not going to do the type of running that Peyton Thorne did against us or Haynes King. And then Jarquez Hunter, how he ran over y'all. Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton aren't going to be able to run like that. I think they're going to have a lot of success running, but it won't be because they do a midline option. Whereas, just like I said, Bama doesn't run a midline option, so I'll talk about that when I talk about our defense. But y'all don't do a midline option, so I'm not as scared for Jalen Milroe's legs as I was before.
Yeah, and like you said, another way that Georgia could really pick on, and obviously this guy has played fantastic for Alabama all season. Caleb Downs, we've seen him get lost a few times in the secondary. Which he's a freshman. He's starting safety at Alabama. One of the
best freshmen in college football.
Yeah, one of the toughest positions to play. But as a freshman does, they get lost sometimes in coverage. Yeah. So if he goes up against Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers, it's probably not going to be a good omen for Alabama. So if Georgia can somehow find some matchups like that on offense to defense, I think those could be exploited if Carson Beck can throw a good pass, which he has all season. But let's go to Alabama offense. Obviously, the X factor in this game is Jalen Milroe. I mean, I think really in terms of everything, Georgia and Alabama, he is the player that is going to impact this game in either a positive or a negative way. And obviously, the way he's been playing recently makes me tend to think he's going to play a really good game. Haven't seen much that I haven't liked from him at all, but his legs are the difference to me in this game. Whether that's getting outside of the pocket when the pocket collapses, making throws on the run, running the football in the option game, the read option, the actual speed options. That is where he plays his best game. And like you said, Alabama's offense, I wouldn't say you called it simple. I wouldn't call it simple. I would just say it's different, more different than what we've ever had, different than what Kirby's ever had to game plan against, because it's not really a pro style offense. It's not really an anything. It's just a Jalen Milroe offense. It's just played off what he does best. And so if you take him what he does best away, you're going to win the game. So if you take his legs out of the game and you make him stay in the pocket, sure, he's going to complete passes here and there, but he's not going to completely pick a team apart in the pocket. unless you give the deep ball away, which I think Alabama's going to hit a couple of deep balls in this game. I mean, I think it's just natural, whether that's Jermaine Burton or Isaiah Bond with that top speed. But I think Alabama's going to have a lot of success running the ball in this game. I really think running the ball, that's the spot this year Georgia's gotten not a lot worse at, but they aren't as good plugging the holes as this year as they have been in the past. Obviously, Jace McClellan's not going to play in this game, but I think Alabama fans, as much as I like Jace, as much as he does for the team, and just running the football, Jam Miller's the better runner. And Jam Miller's going to get a lot of opportunities in this game. Roydell's going to get some opportunities. And obviously, Milroe's going to get some with his legs. But I think that's where the game's going to be won for Alabama. That interior O-line has been playing out of their mind recently. And I think that's where they're going to get a push. And obviously, I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be under too much duress in this game because Georgia hasn't been able to get after the passer that much this year. So the only way that they're going to have to get after the pass, only way that I think they're going to be able to consistently get after the passer is one. Obviously, we've seen Proctor have some at left tackle there have some miscues this year. He'll be matched up against Michael Williams all game. We know Michael Williams is really good, but Caden Proctor was a 5-star for a reason. He's got talent. He's improved this year as time's gone on. I'm willing to think Michael Williams is going to get past him a couple times, whether that's a sack or something, whatever happens. I think he'll make a couple of plays happen, but I don't think he's going to be able to sustain that the whole game. So Georgia's going to have to bring a lot of pressure. They're going to have to rush 5 or 6. And what happens when you rush 5 or 6, Jake? Some guys are left open. And if Milroe can get outside the pocket or find those open receivers, it's going to be a tough day for Georgia defensively. Another X factor I look at on the offense for Alabama is Amari Niblack, a big tight end, kind of like, I wouldn't say he's anything like Brock Bowers, but he's a very athletic tight end that can go after and catch the ball. He's got better at blocking all year. So obviously I think this game is rest upon the shoulders of Jalen Milroe. Can he go out and win it for Alabama? It's to be determined, but certainly have loved what I've seen. Obviously talked about how much he's transformed as a player all season, but specifically as a passer. I mean, could Jalen Milroe have maybe not a Heisman moment this year, but his moment in this game? In these SEC championship games that Alabama's beaten Georgia in, quarterbacks have had a moment. Jalen Hurts had it in 2018. In 2017 national championship, Tua had his moment. Is it a time for Bryce Young had his moment 2021. Is it time for Jalen Milroe to have his moment? We'll find out on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. Jalen Milroe's legs are going to be the difference. If he can run on us, I think it's going to be a long day. If he can't, I think it's going to be a really long day for y'all. And I think you agree with that. You think he's going to be able to run on us? I actually disagree. And it's because he's going to get his, but he doesn't do a ton of design QB runs. I get it. He does a few each game, probably like somewhere between like 4 and 6. I think that's fair. You look at the games where we got run against, because our run defense has been really good this year outside of Auburn and outside of Georgia Tech. And that's what I was saying. Y'all run, and a lot of what I'm going to say I've seen, and shout out to Brooks Austin, I've seen a lot in his film study of Alabama. Y'all run a lot of, I think it's called an arrow option. And so it's where y'all bring Isaiah Bond, the tight end, whoever, out on a little arrow across. And you have a read option with the QB, and then Jalen Milroe, he can either run it or he can throw it to, whoever's out there. That's not what we've been getting beat with. It's because that's mainly not running into the edge. That's running into the outside secondary. So, I mean, our secondary, I get it. It might not be as great as y'all's. Our secondary is really good. We definitely have the advantage in safeties. Y'all definitely have the advantage in corners because there's 3 really, really, really good corners playing in this game and one kind of suspect one. Sadly, that is on our side, Dalen Everett. I think he's been better than what a lot of people have said, but he has not played tremendous. Whereas Kamari, he's played tremendous. And then, see, this is where you said you think y'all are going to be able to hit a few deep balls. I think y'all hit 1, maybe 2. But I think Jalen Milroe probably throws 1 or 2 interceptions as well. For the fact that, and what I've seen and what I've heard is that Jalen Milroe, he throws a great ball, has a lot of arm talent, throws the threads off the ball. But whenever he throws a deep ball, it can often get, whenever he tries too hard. And again, a lot of this I've seen in the film study. When he tries too hard, it can kind of go a little quack on him. And it can be a little, not a big duck. But it can go up in the air a little bit. And we saw it against Ole Miss whenever that happened. Jackson Dart tried to do it. Javon Bullard went and picked it off. We've seen Malachi Starks do it time and time again. So I think that's going to happen once or twice. And especially if Dalen Everett is having himself a game, I don't think there's a shot we lose, but I don't think he's going to be able to play out of his mind. So I think y'all are going to be able to pick on Dalen a little bit. But the reason I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be able to run on us too much is because what a lot of teams have not realized, and it's what I've been telling you the whole year. I don't understand why these teams rush three. I have no clue, because also their edges go outside. They like banana peel to try to get to Jalen Milroe, and it doesn't work. And then you leave
They
the
try to
defensive
set the edge. Yeah, they try to set the edge.
Well, you set the edge in a run play. You don't set the edge when you're trying to pass rush.
They're trying to keep him in the pocket, and
No,
doesn't work.
that's not what they've been trying. Because when you mush rush, that's what it's called. That's when you keep him in the pocket and you kind of you attack the O line on the same level. You kind of just push him upwards. I think that's what we're going to do, and I think it's going to have a lot of success, because Jalen Milroe, he can often, whenever he doesn't see anyone open, when he can't run, he often pats the ball and makes a mistake, and that's why I think he's going to throw 1 or 2 interceptions. But you've seen teams all this year, they rush three, they have their edges banana peel, and then they have their defensive tackle sit there and take on a double block. And then Jalen Milroe has a wide open lane to rush the ball. And maybe they have a spy, maybe they don't. Jalen Milroe is the most athletic QB potentially ever. He's insane running the ball. So if you have a spy on him, maybe he can get to him. There's not a great chance that he's going to be able to bring him down. Even I think Smile Mondon's gonna spy him a little bit this year or this week. I don't think he's going to have a ton of success if he has to go one-on-one with him in space, because that's just Jalen Milroe is too good at it. But I think we're going to have a lot of success in mush rushing him. And then on third downs, I think Alabama's kind of lived on, and you can probably echo this sentiment. I think they've lived on third and longs this year. And in a lot of my guy is better than your guy. And because they had the 3rd and 17 on the very first drive of the game against Auburn. They had, I think it was like 2nd and long, right before the half, the 70-yard touchdown. On the very last drive of the game, they had a 3rd and 20 right before 4th and 31. So, you just look at all those plays. They live on 3rd and long. And I don't think you're going to be able to do that against a really good defense in Georgia. You can against Auburn. You can against Ole Miss. You can against A&M. But whenever you're going up against a great defense, I don't think you're going to be able to live on 3rd and long. And especially when, like I said, Kamari Lassiter is better than whoever he's matched up against at wide receiver. Whoever is Malachi matched up against, bless him, because Malachi, I really hope Malachi wins the Jim Thorpe Award. He deserves it. He's the best DB in college, in my opinion. But Dalen Everett is going to be the one that's left out there, and we, like I said, don't know how that's going to end. But you mentioned Mykel Williams matched up against Caden Proctor. I think this is going to be the Jalen Walker show. I've seen it. Caden Proctor, I heard he put on like 30-40 pounds coming from high school, and that's the reason he's been kind of susceptible in the past. He's been great in the run game. Yeah. I saw a play against LSU. It was on the run too. It was on a screenplay, and he knocked like 3 dudes out of the way. Granted, LSU, and it was an LSU film study that I watched. Oh my, LSU's defense is atrocious. I didn't realize it was that bad. But still, he's been really great in the run game. I think because he gained that weight, he's struggled a lot against speed rushes and all year. And I don't think he's seen one. Maybe Anthony Hill. I don't think he's seen one like Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker and it's the reason why he's not a great pass rusher, because he really only has one move. He can just speed rush. That's pretty much it. But I think that's going to be able to hit home against Caden Proctor once or twice. And especially if you can potentially cause a fumble on that'd be great. But I do think Mykel's going to have a huge game, but I think it's going to be more so in the run game, or, kind of like I said, mush rushing Jalen Milroe and being able to sack him in the pocket. So I think you nailed it on the head. I think the secret is just trying to keep him in the pocket. And I think we're going to have a lot of success doing that and not going to let him beat us with his legs. And I mentioned earlier, I think after the Missouri game, looking forward to this game, we never really get beat with people we know can run the ball. Because Brady Cook was able to run the ball well. Didn't really know he could do that. CJ Stroud last year didn't really know he could do that. But when you look at teams we play that, we go into the game wondering if they'll be able to run it on us, whether that be Jackson Dart, Max Duggan last year, Jaden Daniels with LSU last year. people can't really run it on us when we prepare for it. And it's kind of like Jalen Hurts whenever he was at Georgia or whenever he was playing Georgia too. So he was very similar to Jalen Milroe's game, in my opinion. And he really, really struggled when Kirby prepared for him. Luckily, y'all had a 5-star backup who came in and second and 26, blah, 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 blah. Y'all don't have that this year. So if Jalen Milroe gets brought out of the game, it's a win for us. So hopefully the same exact thing can happen and they bring in Ty Buckner or something, Ty Simpson, one of the two. Because then do what?
Buckner's the 4th string.
Dylan Lonergan is over him now.
Lonergan's the 3rd string. But hopefully Buckner doesn't even make the trip with the team. I mean, that would make me want to throw up in my mouth.
He'll be there for the veteran presence.
Yeah. Well,
he's there.
He's probably the worst starter of the Saban era. But anyway, you talked a lot about how we only run like 4 to 6 design runs a game. But we both talked about for Jalen Milroe, but we both talked about both teams are going to throw everything that they have out there. I think what you see, the game plan you see from Tommy Rees is one that you haven't seen all year. In terms of Milroe, I think he's going to have more than 15 carries in this game. And a lot of them will be designed. I really do feel like that. And sure, I think Georgia will have some success at getting him outside the pocket. And Kirby hit on it in his press conference. You haven't seen anyone like Jalen Milroe ever. I don't think Kirby's seen anyone like Jalen Milroe ever.
He didn't hit that. He said that.
Yeah. So I think it's gonna be a lot tougher, I think, to contain him than you think it is. Obviously,
no, I think it's gonna be really tough.
I think both teams do a lot of things similarly, and I think both teams will have success doing things that they do during times in this game. It's just about who has success more. So when we really think about this, Jake, when we come down to who's going to win this game and how is it done, to me, turnover battle, 3rd down, and special teams. Special teams is going to, and field position on punts is going to make a lot of difference. And I know special teams doesn't get much love, but Alabama's kicker, Will Reichard, needs 3 points to be the NCAA all-time scoring leader. He's been struggling a little bit lately. He's only missed 3 field goals this year, so not too bad. And 2 of them were in one game, so I'm not gonna be too critical there.
Yeah.
But he's good.
I actually think we have the edge in special teams. Peyton Woodring's not as good as Will Reichard, but they're kind of opposites right now. Will Reichard started out the year really strong. I don't know when he missed his first field goal, but I think it was like, I don't know, week 9, something really late when he missed his first field goal. Peyton Woodring, exact opposite. Freshman. I mean, they're one of the same. They were their number 1 kickers in their class, came to these schools, started their freshman year. Gonna be historic for Peyton Woodring as well. Peyton Woodring came in, sucked. He missed like 3 field goals under 35 yards. And I mean, luckily it was against the bad teams. We didn't need it, but he hasn't missed one since like week 3. He's been locked down and he's been hot. But then also, I think I don't know exactly James Burnip. I don't know how good he is.
I don't even know who Georgia's punter is, but I was going to say James Burnip has been amazing this year.
Oh, really? Hey, no, you better know the name. Brett Thorson, the Australian. He is really good. I saw him in practice whenever he was a freshman, and he kicked a ball. And this was when Jake Camarda was there, and they were kicking side by side. Brett Thorson was out driving him as a freshman when Jake Camarda, 4th round pick as a punter.
He's one of the better punters in the NFL too.
Brett Thorson has been really good this year, and Georgia is the only team that another team has not attempted a punt return against. So that just goes to show you
how
good his punts are.
Alabama will have Caleb Downs back there returning punts. He'll be making his 2nd start as punt returner.
I'm sad Kool-Aid's not going to be back there because I was hoping for
and we've seen Caleb Downs already take one back to the house. So who knows if he can do that again. Kick returning in college now isn't what it used to be. So I don't think that really is going to matter too much. But field position in this game could be a huge deal for both teams. And like you said earlier, when you were talking about you think Milroe throws a pick, I think Carson Beck throws a pick in this game too.
I could see it.
So I think both quarterbacks end up with a pick, but where is there going to be a fumble? Like where's the stray fumble in this game? You know,
where's the fumble like Dejon had against Georgia Tech? The one that just comes out of nowhere.
Sack. Where's the strip sack in this game? That could go for either team. So I really think whoever wins TOP, field position, and turnover battle is going to win the game because both teams are very similar and both teams are really good.
I actually agree with you. All of those. Add one more, red zone. Georgia not been great red zone.
Third down conversions too.
Oh, you mentioned third downs. Third downs 100% because Bama likes to live in third and long. Georgia likes to live in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. We have a lot and we convert a lot. I think we're number 2, 0.1% behind LSU now. I think y'all are like 19th, 20th, somewhere around there. Defense, both of us are very similar on third down. I think we're number 2. I think y'all are 12, somewhere along those lines. Red zone is where it's different. Red zone is where y'all have the advantage. We are not extremely efficient as a defense. Offense, we're relatively okay, but as a defense, we're like 60th. And so if Bama gets into the red zone, I think they're going to score. Good thing is, y'all rely on explosive plays. Don't think y'all are going to get into the red zone maybe once or twice. I think when y'all score, it's going to be from like the 35-yard line. So that's the one thing going for us.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Alabama's going to be able to get in the red zone pretty not easily.
I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I just don't think they're going to have to.
Alabama's going to score some points.
I think it's just how explosive their offense is. Like Isaiah Bonds, I was very tempted to put this in there. His receiving yard total is 64.5, I think. He can hit that on one play. So
yeah. I think Alabama's going to have some success on offense in this game. I do think there'll be a couple drives where it's 3 and out or there's an interception thrown or something. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give my final score prediction. I'm going to go Alabama wins 38-34. I have a lot of points in this game. I think both offenses are going to find some success, but I think it comes down to which defense plays better in the end. And I think Alabama's got the better defense. I actually think the turnover margin will be just 1 on both sides. I think there'll be a pick from both quarterbacks. I think third down conversions. Another thing that people don't talk about a lot, but Alabama's top 10 in 4th down conversions this year in college football as well. I think we've only missed 1 4th down out of like 10 or 11. And we like to go for 4th downs on 4th and 3, 4th and 2, 4th and 1. And we've got, Philadelphia Eagles have the brotherly shove. We've got the Millie Dilly. So we have the Jalen Milroe tush push, and it's been pretty successful for us this year. And a lot of misdirections and toss sweeps on that too that can come out of that formation. We did a toss sweep against Auburn out of that formation. So yeah, I'm gonna go 38-34 Alabama. I think the Bama defense is just better in the end and gets it done. Like I said, I think Jalen Milroe has a monster game.
Yeah, gonna be a tremendous game. Gonna be a lot of fun to watch. I think it's gonna be 27-20 Georgia. I think it's going to be defensive battle. I think both offenses are really going to struggle at first. I think they're going to get their groove. I think it might be like a 7-3 game at half. I think this is going to be a second half game and one with offense in the second half. So going to be a tremendous game. I'm super excited. I just got my tickets today. We're in row 17, so really close to the field. I cannot beat 120. So
okay, I'm in section 117. I'm 3 sections over, and I'm in row 59.
Yeah, we're right behind the what's it called? Field goal post. So
okay.
It's gonna be a tremendous game. Can't wait to go watch it in Atlanta this weekend. Got like 3 more sleeps. 3 more sleeps. I want to say Thursday, Friday. So can't wait. I'll be seeing you in Atlanta.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you. And like I said earlier this year, I obviously will be very upset when Alabama loses, but I will not be too mad because anything from here on out after those first couple weeks, when everything was really rough, was just icing on the cake. So it's been a real pleasure to watch this team this year. Been one of the most fun teams to watch. And in my opinion, the best coaching job Nick Saban's ever had, in his time at Alabama. So let's hope that they can continue, at least for my sake, the role that they've been on lately. But yeah, like you said, I could see Georgia winning this game. I could see Alabama winning this game. Every single point that we made, I could see it happening. I could also see the inverse happening. There's just so much that this game could happen in this game. It's why to me it's the most intriguing game. It's the best game of the weekend. 2 best teams.
And I mean, I think you said you can't see this game being a blowout. I can see it being a blowout for both teams. I can see Alabama coming into Atlanta and just kind of shutting out Georgia. I can see Georgia doing the exact same thing. I think it's going to be a close game, but I can see both of them happening.
I think that they could, but I just think that's so far fetched that it won't. And obviously when it's Kirby and Nick, I mean, come on, you can't get any better. These are the two best coaches in college football. It's got to be close. It's got to be close.
Look, also, and I hate to admit this, if you take the A off of, or I guess their numbers, if you take the numbers off of Alabama's helmets and they look like LSU helmets, Missouri helmets, Michigan helmet, any other team with this team, I am not that scared for this game. I would probably think we would win by 14-17 because it is Alabama, because they have broken my heart year after year after year. And I think all of Georgia football nation can get behind me. I am just scared every time I see Bama because it's as someone said the other day, is it kind of still like little brother, big brother? I don't think it's that, because that's horrible. I mean, I get it.
So we reserve that for Tennessee and Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Kirby Smart is 1-4,
1-4.
1-4 against Nick Saban. Not great, but also that was before he had his dynasty. So now is where I think we can really start keeping track of it. Now that he has all his recruits, he has his coaching tree, he has everything. He was a first-time head coach going up against Nick Saban in his second year in the Natty. So that was extremely impressive. So I don't think we should take away anything from that. But like I said, anytime I just see Alabama, I'm scared. I'm going to see them on the field Saturday. And even though this is not the Bama team of old, it's still Bama. And it scares me.
Still a really good team. It's just a
Still
team.
A good team.
It's just a team that hasn't fit the mold of old Alabama teams. It's a different team. But college football is changing, and so are the landscape of the way teams are going to be. So but yeah, like I said, I mean, it's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see you there, man. Regardless, you'll be wearing red and black and white. I'll be wearing crimson and white. But still, we're both really good friends, and it's gonna be a fun time. And regardless of who wins, I think you as well think the winner of this game is going to win the national championship game.
I think a natty is on the line on
Saturday. I
Saturday.
wouldn't necessarily say I'll be pulling for Georgia the whole rest of the way out. We'll have to see. But against I'll pull for Georgia over. If FSU was to make the playoff, like if Georgia was beat Bama and FSU was to make the playoff, I'd pull for FSU just because they're like, the wild card underdog. But I mean, I'd pull for Georgia over Oregon. I'd pull for them over Michigan for sure this year. So
call me crazy, but I mean, I'd pull for Bama over Michigan and Texas probably. Who wouldn't want to see a FSU natty? FSU not supposed to win the natty this year,
especially without Jordan Travis.
Say Washington wins on Saturday. Who doesn't want to see a Washington natty? Yeah. You cannot tell me you would cheer for Bama or Georgia over Washington or over FSU or Oregon. Come on.
No, I don't like Bo Nix. It's
the reason why last year I said if I wasn't a Georgia fan, I'm 100% rooting for TCU. Why would you root for Georgia against these?
Yeah, I was TCU from the get-go last year. I mean, what a wild card story they were.
I mean, Cinderella story, and it's like I said, it's kind of what FSU is now. No one thinks they can win. So, I mean, if they can, all props to them. But
it reminds you of 2014 Ohio State too. No one thought they were going to win. Third string quarterback.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. But all right, I got to get out of here. So it was a great show. I can't wait to see you on Saturday. If you're still listening, go subscribe, tell your friends about us. Hope you enjoyed listening to us ramble on talking about Georgia and Alabama. I think we talked about them for 40 minutes, so a little bit longer than I wanted to.
Well, I thought we did pretty good time because we started talking about them at 10:30 my time, and it's 11:04, so I thought it was pretty good. All right. Roll Tide, everybody. Rammer Jammer, we're going to need it this weekend.
Go Dogs, baby. Sick 'em.